Moroccan Autonomy Initiative deserves international attention today much more than before. Since 2004, the Security Council of the United Nations has called upon all the parties to the Sahara issue to overcome its deadlock by actively seeking a just, lasting, and mutually acceptable political solution. For solving the issue, Morocco has formulated a draft autonomy statute in conformity with international law, taking an inclusive and participatory approach. This Moroccan Autonomy Initiative is inspired by contemporary models of territorial dispute resolution all over the world. The Autonomy Initiative, submitted to the Security Council in 2007, is based on the following two main pillars. First, establishing representative local institutions, enabling the exercise of political, social, and cultural rights of the population in the Sahara districts. Second, preserving Moroccan historical sovereignty over the territory in accordance with international law. In general, autonomy is a legal and political framework for power distribution in order to preserve the unity of a state while respecting the diversity of its components. As such, the Autonomy Initiative is intended to provide the basis for a negotiated solution to the Sahara issue based on the right to self-determination and territorial integrity. As precedents, more than 70 autonomy agreements have been concluded since the end of World War II. Autonomy remains a balanced solution between national sovereignty and local democracy. Besides, Moroccan initiative contains essential elements to provide an appropriate framework for regional integration, which would ensure the development of North Africa, one of the least economically integrated regions in the world. The initiative is therefore consistent with international law, basic to a negotiated win-win solution, realistic and pragmatic, taking into account the tribal, political, and economic specificities of the region, and sustainable, as it paves the way for peace, security, and cooperation in the Maghreb region. In consequence, Moroccan Autonomy Initiative is not only in conformity with international law, but also in favor of stabilizing the world, increasingly fragmented by COVID-19 and racism. What is the status of Polisario in international law? Polisario, it is intrinsically a group of private persons to which international law is not applied as a principle. However, if a group is recognized as a national liberation movement in the United Nations, it would enjoy the status of international entity to the extent that the exercise of the right to self-determination is concerned. In the United Nations, however, Polisario has never been recognized as a national liberation movement. This non-recognition implies that Polisario cannot claim to represent the population in the Sahara. Historically, while Morocco formally laid claim to the Sahara in the United Nations already in 1957, Polisario was only created in the middle 1970s at the instigation of Algeria and Libya in the face of Spain's withdrawal from the Sahara in 1976. The UN only granted Polisario the status of a petitioner, like other private persons and NGOs, in the framework of some work of the Committee of 24 and the Fourth Committee of the General Assembly. Nevertheless, in 1976, Polisario unilaterally declared the independence of so-called Sadr and plotted to seat it in the OAU by omitting the procedure to examine if it was really sovereign. So-called Sadr does not enjoy any legal, popular, or even less democratic legitimacy to aspire to represent the population. So-called Sadr does not exercise any authority or control over the territory. It is not a member of any international or regional organizations except the African Union. Nearly three-quarters of the UN member states do not recognize it. No European, North American, or Arab states except Algeria recognize it. Any permanent member of the Security Council and the European Union do not recognize it. Only less than 30 states continue to recognize it, located mainly in Africa and Latin America for purely ideological reasons. Since 2000, 44 states have decided to withdraw or freeze the recognition of so-called Sadr. Polisario cannot claim to represent the population or plead on their behalf before international or regional organizations. As an example, the European Union Court of Justice had rejected in 2016 the action brought by Polisario as inadmissible because of lacking local standing. This means that it is not a subject in international law. As a matter of fact, the majority of the Sahrawi people live in Morocco. The mass and successful wave return to the Sahara of entire families and the defection in series of Polisario leaders deprive all credibility to the claims of Polisario to stand as a representative of the population. On the other hand, two representatives of the Sahara, democratically elected by the population, have been participating since 2018 in the regional seminar at the Committee of 24 and its main meetings as representatives of the population. Moreover, the two democratically elected presidents of the Sahara regions and a representative of the Sahrawi civil society were part of the Moroccan delegation at the two Geneva roundtables in 2018 and 2019, attended by not only Morocco and Polisario, but also Algeria and Mauritania as part of the UN political process to the Sahara issue.